May, and this is May's Crochets. I'm back today to share the latest Wooble that I made. This time it's Sebastian the Lion. I'm a beginner crocheter, and I've been working my way through a bunch of the Woobles Learn-to-Crochet kits as a way to learn how to crochet. I have videos on my channel of all of the previous Woobles that I've made, but I'm here today to share Sebastian the Lion. So let me show you the front of the kit. Here he is. Here's Sebastian. Let me show you the back of the kit. So it talks through everything that's included in the kit, which is everything that you need to make this project. Yarn, step-by-step instructions, videos, pre-started piece, crochet hook, stuffing, safety eyes, and tapestry needle. So lately, I've actually been doing a couple of the Woobles collaboration kits. So I did most recently Hello Kitty and Snoopy. So those were kind of fun to have the kind of the real characters as the little collaborations. But back today to just kind of one of their standard like animal kits, the lion named Sebastian. Beginner kit, although technically I think this is considered beginner plus. You can see particularly the mane that goes around the face. That definitely has a little bit of complexity beyond just some of the standard kits. So I think that's why it's beginner plus. But yeah, back to sort of one of just like the standard animals, non-collaboration, Sebastian the Lion. So let me show you how he came out. Okay, here we go. Here he is, Sebastian. Roar! Do you think he looks like a lion? I think the jury's out a little bit for me. Okay, this is a funny pattern. Here he is from the front. The most interesting stuff, of course, is like right around the face, and we've got this mane going all the way around. I can turn him around, but really not a whole lot going on the back or on the bottom. I can show you that just from the top, he's got ears. But really it's mostly all around here. So yeah, I don't know. I think my impressions of this just pattern in general, this kit, or maybe it's not my favorite of all the Woobles that I've done, purely I think just because of the pattern and like the way that it comes out. I think making a lion out of a sort of egg shape is a little bit tricky. I think this is the whole idea with the Woobles, is that most of them you do this kind of egg shape and then you can learn like standard crochet. You learn like increase, single crochet, decrease to make an egg, and then you do some sort of special stuff on top of it. And maybe it just doesn't lend itself well to a lion. I'm not exactly sure. It's hard to get like the lion face and stuff. But yeah, we can talk through kind of item by item on this kit. And I can share my experiences. So yeah, again, the Wooble body is really the totally standard like egg shape that many, but not all of the Woobles are. Most recently I did Snoopy, who was not egg-shaped. I also did Fred the Dino, another previous video, also not egg-shaped, and had a little bit of like increasing and then decreasing and then increasing. But most of the Woobles are really this egg shape, and then you add some other stuff on. So I've made this exact like egg shape a whole lot of times, where you start with some increases and single crochets and eventually do decreases. So that is, all good practice, getting very familiar to me. So that's great. But yeah, let's get into all of sort of the interesting extra pieces. So first off, they have you do, after you finish the yellow egg, they have you do these white, they call them snout circles. And I just think they're so goofy looking. I guess if you look at a picture of a lion, lions do have like white kind of around their nose and mouth. I guess that's their snout. They have whiskers, but they have that kind of white area. But like, I don't know, the fact that it's just these two circles, it's like, it's not exactly that, I think, on a lion. Like the circles, I don't even know. I guess it's supposed to be like almost like the cheeks or the snout. But yeah, they call them snout circles. It's really just two magic rings. Each one's a magic ring with 6 stitches, and that's it. And you do an invisible fasten off. And I actually was worried, like just doing one magic ring, I don't know, it kind of is hard to make it look exactly like a circle, but once you actually do the invisible fasten off, which kind of you end up making almost like a fake extra stitch, a fake extra V, it does sort of flatten itself out. So that was kind of cool. I don't think I'd done ever something that was literally just one round before, one magic ring. And so they came out okay, circular. And then I sewed them on, and here, this is like every video, every Wooble I make, I'm telling you about all of my experiences trying to do all these little details and how I have to do it multiple times. Again, literally like every piece of this I had to do multiple times because I didn't get it right the first time. I think I put the circles a little bit too low the first time. I actually used pins. I used sewing pins like from a pin cushion to try to place them correctly to make sure they were like symmetrical and in the right spot. And like I did that, I sewed them on. Luckily I didn't sew the end like through the wooble. I left it just in case. But when I finished it and I looked at it and then I compared it to the picture, I realized like they were just too low. They were both one round lower than the eyes. Probably it would have been fine, but I don't know. I saw the pictures. I saw that they were much more in line with the eyes, so I undid it and I did them both again. And even then I like didn't get it quite right and like I just I don't know. I really wanted it to really be symmetrical, and I think I actually like went around a little bit extra with my white yarn to like there was one stitch that was like a little bit below and to the right, symmetrical to the other, non-symmetrical to the other eye. And so I actually went back to try to fix that. So I don't know, kind of silly. I'm a perfectionist, and it's still not perfect. So I mean, come on. But that's the snout circles, the goofy little white circles. Then the nose is embroidery, black embroidery for the nose. Again, that one I did twice. Looking at the picture, it looked a little different in the video as in the written pattern, and I like only was referencing one. I really should have referenced both and figured out what looked good to me. The first time I started too low down, and I went too far to the sides, to closer to the eyes, and I ended up with this giant nose, and like, it's really should just be kind of more of the tip of the nose. So I ended up redoing and making it a little bit smaller. It's kind of cool. So you just end up basically making, this is only like, it's like three basically horizontal lines that because of the size of the yarn, it really like, it fills it in. I thought maybe it would be more like sometimes other nose embroidery, you're like going kind of through the same stitches over and over again just to like make it wider. But this time, yeah, it was like basically three horizontal lines that made this triangle. And then you actually go up to the corner and up to the other corner to make it more like a triangle. You actually like add the an extra stitch on each side at the end to make it more straight and not like this sort of horizontal line not filled in. So that was kind of interesting. So that was the nose. Next up was the ears. The yellow ears were each just extra pieces. You do the magic ring, you do a couple rounds, and you sew them on. So those I think I did okay with. I may have had to also just do a little bit of fixing after I sewed them on the first time, but really it was this, they call it ear fuzz, this orange. I did another kit, Felix the Fox, which these ears are exactly the same with the ear fuzz. It was different color. That was orange ears with yellow ear fuzz. I'll link to my Felix the Fox video here, but yeah, this time I kind of knew what I'd be doing because I did it with Felix the Fox, and I did it pretty well the first time. I kind of got these three kind of embroidery lines all good on one side. On the other side, I was ready to, finish it off and pull it through and cut. And then I turned it around and I saw that I actually I had a piece of orange yarn visible on the back of the first ear that I had made. I don't know how, and I don't know how I didn't notice it originally. Again, it probably wouldn't have been the end of the world, but like you really shouldn't have orange, poking out here. And I don't know how I did it. I must have just like gone all the way through when I wasn't supposed to. Maybe when I was like trying to move to the next ear and just like go through the body, I went like out of the body and then back in. So I ended up having to undo all of my ear fuzz and do it all again. And then of course, when I tried to do it again, I like couldn't get it looking the way I had the first time. I couldn't quite get it right. So it took me a few tries. So such is life. This is like, I'm always having to do things multiple times, but I do just kind of want to get it right. So I did undo it until I got it right. So that was basically everything up until the mane. Okay, so the mane here, this is the really interesting part, and this is why I feel like this kit is really interesting compared to a lot of the other ones. I don't know if any other Woobles have something like this. I think this was a really cool experience for me to learn how to do. I watched the videos very closely for the mane. So you end up doing a really long foundation. This is all like, it's one chain where you then add these extra sort of extra chains onto it. So it's one really long chain. It's 39 stitches as a foundation chain. And then you do like one more row back of slip stitches. So you end up with sort of two rows of slip stitches or something for the foundation chain. And then kind of one by one, you do chains of 8. And then you attach it back to the foundation chain, of 2, I don't know what the words are. But so you end up making like 37 or something of these little loops that are just, each one's just a chain. So 37 times you make these chains of 8, and then you just sort of fold it back over and attach it and then keep going and keep going and keep going. You have so many of them that they end up making this sort of hair look. I did something a little bit similar a little while ago. I made Aries the crochet zodiac doll, which I have a video about and I can link to. That one also had hair. The yarn that I used for that was fingering weight yarn, which is really, really small, and it was a real challenge. It wasn't exactly like this. I think maybe that one actually did have single crochets for the actual pieces of hair, but you ended up similarly kind of going back into a chain to make it look like hair. So I guess this is, I mean, it makes sense, sort of a technique to get a bunch of hair. You just sort of end up with a bunch of these going back into the chain. But that was cool. I've never done anything like this with the Woobles. And it was cool to see how they taught it. And from what I gather, I've only ever done amigurumi. I've never made like a blanket or a scarf or anything else. But from what I gather, it's the same idea that you like do a foundation and then you turn and you like crochet back into it and you turn and you crochet back into it. This only included two, I guess, rows, including one turn, and then all this crocheting into it. But that was kind of cool just to have done a kind of a long foundation chain like that. And then it basically just wraps all the way around and you sew it. And so I think there were a couple little things like the videos talked about, I think they recommended sewing it on in a certain direction, like out versus in. Like there was something about it doesn't look that different, but like it looks a little bit different from the front versus from the back. And I think in the end I might have done it backwards from what the video recommended, but really not the end of the world. I mean, there's a lot going on with this mane anyway. Also, like, so you needed it to go all the way around, and they said it was okay if it like overlapped a little bit, but I kind of didn't want it to overlap too much, and so I ended up doing it more like tighter, I guess, once I got to the top because I didn't want it to overlap too much. So it's almost like the hair's a little bit like a little bit tighter up here versus down here. There's a little more like extra, but that's really like overthinking a little bit. And like it's if you just sort of take a step back, you see this mane. It's just hair. It's not like you can really tell too much that it's like tighter or like more curly or something down here. So that's the mane, a cool learning experience for sure. But yeah, overall, I just looking at this sort of now that it's done, I just think it's kind of a goofy pattern. I mean, we've got a lot going on up here in the face, but like there's no legs. I mean, real lions have legs. I guess that the Woobles, they do the body and then they always want to do a few other things to add to the pattern to make it look like what the pattern should be, but they don't want to do too much. I don't even know what it would look like to have like legs, but it just looks a little bit goofy. I mean, again, these snout circles, like the snout is like a real lion has like there's kind of like a line for their mouth with the white we do not have that here, so they chose to kind of do the nose and the snout circles but not a mouth or line or whiskers, and then the mane just sort of going around the face like this, but it's an egg shape, so kind of goofy. Not my favorite. Maybe it's just not the cutest of all the Woobles that I've done. I have other ones that I found a lot cuter. But still, as always, a great learning experience. In particular, the mane was just an interesting thing to have done, and I'm gonna add it to my Woobles collection, and on to my next one. So stay tuned for future videos where I do more Woobles. But that's it for today. So thank you so much for keeping me company, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Roar.